Working the night shift at a supermarket isn't as bad as people think. I've been doing it for 2 years now. Same store, same routine. Most nights are slow, just a few last-minute shoppers, college kids grabbing snacks, and exhausted parents picking up diapers at 11:30 p.m. I know the regulars. I chat with the security guard before closing. I like the predictability of it. But last fall, I learned something. Predictability works both ways. Because if you do the same thing every night, someone else can start to notice. And that's exactly what happened. Nothing seemed off at first. It was just a normal interaction. A middle-aged guy, maybe late 40s, wearing jeans and a zip-up hoodie. He came through my checkout line around 11:45 p.m., a couple of frozen dinners, a six-pack, nothing weird. As I bagged his stuff, he smiled a little. "Man, I always come in during your shift. You close at midnight, right?" It caught me off guard. I tried to place his face, but nothing stood out. Yeah," I said, forcing a polite laugh. "Same schedule every week." He nodded, grabbed his bags, and walked off. I didn't think much of it at the time. But now I wish I had. A few nights later, he came back. Same time, same checkout lane, same too long smile. He didn't say much, but he didn't need to. The way he looked at me was enough. "Busy night?" he asked casually. "Not really," I said, scanning his groceries. "Yeah, I figured. I mean, I know your schedule and all." I paused. "Oh yeah?" I said, playing it cool. "Yeah. You're here Monday through Friday, 4 to midnight. You always take your break around 9:30. Sometimes you grab a coffee from the machine near aisle 5. Then you leave out the side door near the employee lot. Guess I just pick up on things." I let out a nervous chuckle, but something twisted in my gut. I had never told him any of that. After that, I started paying more attention. I noticed he never bought much, a couple of things, always around closing. I also noticed that after checking out, he didn't always leave right away. A week later, he made another comment. "You park in the corner lot, right? Where no one else parks?" I went cold. That was true. I always parked near the edge of the lot away from the other cars. It made getting in and out easier. But no one should have noticed that. Yeah, I answered, ringing him up fast. "Smart," he said, nodding. "No one can block you that way." It wasn't just what he said. It was how he said it, like he had thought about it. I took a deep breath and told myself I was making a big deal out of nothing. But I changed my parking spot that night. The next shift, I parked somewhere different, closer to the building. At 11:30 p.m., he showed up. I didn't say anything, but as I handed him his receipt, he smiled. "Switched parking spots, huh?" I stopped breathing. I didn't respond. Just looked at him. He grabbed his bag and walked out like it was nothing. That was the breaking point. I went straight to Dave, the security guard. Told him about the guy, how he knew my schedule, my parking, how he was watching me. Dave took it seriously. We went to the office, pulled up the security footage, and there he was. Every night after checking out, he'd go outside, but he wouldn't leave. Instead, he'd stand in the parking lot. He didn't even pretend to be on the phone or talking to anyone. He was just standing there for 15 minutes, watching the store. Then, finally, he'd get into his car and drive off. The next night, I was on edge. I tried to focus, but my head kept snapping back to the cameras. But by 11:30, he hadn't come in. For the first time in weeks, he wasn't there. That's what I thought, until I realized I was wrong. At 11:55 p.m., I went to take out the last trash bag before closing. Stepped outside near the dumpsters and stopped, because he was there, standing in the far corner of the parking lot, not moving, not walking toward the store, just watching. And this time, he wasn't smiling. I turned right back around, went inside, and told Dave. The guy didn't follow, didn't move, just stood there, barely visible in the shadows. Dave walked me to my car that night. I started my engine, locked the doors, and pulled out fast. And that was the last time I saw him. Or so I assumed. Big mistake. A week later, I was driving home. I was finally starting to feel normal again. Then I noticed something in my rearview mirror. Headlights. A car far back, too far to see the driver. But something felt wrong. I switched lanes. The car switched too. I took an exit I never took. So did the car. A rush of adrenaline hit me, and I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. Finally, I pulled into a gas station, parked right by the entrance, in full view of the security cameras. The car slowed down, then kept going. Didn't stop, didn't turn around, just drove past and disappeared into the night. I waited 5 minutes before pulling out again. I drove home a different way that night. I wasn't taking any chances. The next day, I drove straight to the police station and told them everything. The way he watched me for weeks, how he knew my schedule, my parking spot, even my habits, how he just stood there in the dark like he was waiting for me. The officer took notes and said they'd start patrolling the lot every night at 11:30 p.m. just in case he came back. But he never did. Not once. They figured he must have seen the police car and gave up. And maybe that's true. Maybe he really did just move on. But there are nights when I step out of work, the parking lot quiet, feeling the weight of the night around me. I still get that feeling, like someone's watching, like he never really left. I've worked in funeral homes for over a decade. I tell people that and watch their reactions. Some lean in, fascinated. Others pull away, uncomfortable, like death is something they might catch if we talk about it too long. It doesn't bother me. I knew what I was signing up for when I got into this field. It's quiet work, meticulous, and, believe it or not, predictable. Or at least it used to be. Until last winter, when something happened that I still can't explain. It was a Wednesday night in January, one of those bitterly cold Philadelphia nights where the cold cuts straight through your coat the second you step outside. I was alone in the building, prepping a body for a morning viewing. The funeral home was small, just 2 main rooms, an office, and the embalming area in the back. Everything was normal, until I saw him. Through the doorway, under the soft glow of the viewing room lights, a man stood near the casket. I froze. He was tall, thin, dressed in a dark suit. He stood with his hands at his sides, facing the closed casket, completely still. I wasn't worried at first. I assumed he was a family member who had come early, maybe hoping for a private moment. It happens sometimes. "I'm sorry, sir," I called out. "The service isn't until tomorrow morning." No reaction. He didn't turn, didn't move, just stood there, staring. His stillness unnerved me. No one is motionless. People breathe, they fidget. He did none of that. I took a hesitant step forward. "Sir?" The phone at the front desk rang. I turned, just for a second. When I looked back, he was gone. The room was completely empty. No footsteps, no creaking floorboards, no sound at all. I stepped inside, checking every darkened corner as I went. Checked the hallway, the front door, even the restroom. Nothing. The place was dead silent. I checked the main entrance. Still locked. The alarm was armed. I was alone. At least I was supposed to be. I sat at my desk, unsettled. I tried to shake it off. Exhaustion, stress, maybe just my eyes playing tricks, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. The way he stood there, the way he vanished. So I pulled up the security footage. My heart pounded as I rewound the tape to the exact time I had seen him. The screen flickered, grainy black and white footage filling the screen. The viewing room was empty. I watched as my own figure walked in, scanning the room, looking for someone who wasn't there. There was no one on the footage, but I had seen him. I knew I had seen him. I came back the next evening, convincing myself it had all been in my head, but part of me didn't believe that. I went about my work, but I was on edge. Everything felt tighter, the dark more suffocating, the creaks more threatening. At 10:45 p.m., I went to lock up. That's when I saw movement in the embalming room window. Just subtle movement in the low light. I whipped around. Nothing. Just an empty room. I let out a shaky breath, trying to steady myself. I was losing it. I turned back toward the window, and my insides turned to ice, because the reflection was still there, even though the room behind me was empty, even though I was the only one standing there. It was still watching me. I told myself I wouldn't come back the next night. That was a lie. I needed to know. I needed to be sure. So, I stayed late again. I walked through every room looking for something I didn't understand. By 11:30 p.m., I was ready to leave. I locked up, turned off the lights, grabbed my coat, then I stopped, because from the viewing room came the sound of a door unlocking. I turned back, my heart hammering. I knew I had locked everything. I reached for my phone, flipped to the security feed, and I saw it, the casket. The one I had closed earlier that night. It was open. I don't remember leaving. I just remember sitting in my car, breathing hard, hands shaking. I stared at the front doors of the funeral home, waiting. Nothing happened, no movement, no shadowy figure stepping into the cold night. Finally, I worked up the nerve to check the security footage. The timestamp showed 11:33 p.m. I watched as I turned off the lights, grabbed my coat, then the casket lid moved. Not fast, not sudden, slowly, like someone inside was lifting it. Then nothing. No one came out, no one was there, but the casket had opened, by itself. I never told my boss why I quit. I packed my things and left without looking back. I don't know what I saw. I don't know if it was real, but I think about it all the time. Sometimes when I'm alone at night, I still feel like I'm in that viewing room, like someone is standing behind me, and I never want to see who it is. If you've ever worked night shifts at a hospital, you know the kind of exhaustion I'm talking about. Not just sleepy tired, the kind of exhaustion that makes your legs feel numb, your brain foggy, and your body scream for rest. That's exactly how I felt the night this happened. I just finished a 12-hour shift in the ER, long, grueling, filled with codes, paperwork, and barely a second to breathe. By the time I clocked out at 2:30 a.m., I wasn't thinking about anything except getting to my car and driving home. I had no idea I was walking straight into the most terrifying moment of my life. The hospital halls were eerily empty. At night, hospitals are a completely different world. Cold fluorescent lighting, distant beeping from patient monitors, the occasional murmur from a nurse station. I walked toward the staff elevator, dragging my bag behind me, when I saw him. A security guard standing right by the doors. Tall, average build, wearing a Navy uniform with a hospital security patch on the sleeve. But something felt off. I couldn't place it at first. Maybe it was just the exhaustion. "You heading to the lot?" he asked, looking at me. "Yeah," I said. "Need some fresh air before I pass out driving." He smiled, but it was a little forced. "Actually, they're blocking off the main lot for maintenance. You'll need to take the side exit tonight." That's when my stomach tightened. I've worked at this hospital for 5 years. We don't do maintenance at 2:30 a.m. "Weird, I didn't hear about that," I said carefully. There was a brief hesitation, just for half a second. Then he nodded. "Yeah, it was last minute. Pipes or something." The way he said it, casual, like he'd run through it in his head already. I studied him. The uniform looked right, but not quite. The badge was too shiny, like something fresh out of a package. And then I realized, no radio. Every hospital security guard carries a radio strapped to their shoulder, but his uniform, completely clean, nothing clipped on. Something about that didn't sit right, but I was exhausted. My brain wasn't working at full capacity, and that's exactly why I made a mistake. I followed him. We took the side hallway leading toward the employee exit. The whole time, I felt like something was off. I shook my head, trying to push the thought away, but the hallway was too quiet. The hospital wasn't busy that night, but there were usually janitors, nurses, doctors coming in and out. Tonight, no one. I looked at my phone. 3% battery. That made me uneasy. I should have just turned around, but I didn't. Because when you work in healthcare, you're trained to trust authority. You don't question security, and that's what he was counting on. As soon as we stepped outside, I knew this was wrong. The air was cold, still. The side exit led to a small loading dock area only dimly lit by a flickering streetlight. There were no cars here, except for one, a dark gray van, parked just outside the loading dock. Engine running, back doors open, the kind of open that wasn't casual, the kind that was waiting for something, or someone. Every nerve in my body went tight. I stopped walking. I think I'll just go through the main lot, I said, turning slightly. His expression didn't change. It's blocked, he said. This is faster. I took a step back. So did he. I was about to run. Then, a voice behind me. Hey, who are you talking to? I turned, and my stomach flipped, because standing in the doorway was the real security guard. My head snapped back to the fake security guard, but he was already walking away, quick but controlled. Heading straight for the van, the doors slammed shut, and then they sped off. No hesitation, no questions, gone. I stood there, frozen, my heart pounding so hard I thought I was going to pass out. The real security guard walked up beside me, looking confused. Who the hell was that? I tried to answer, but my voice wouldn't come out. The police came. They took my statement. The hospital had no record of any security maintenance that night. No new hires, no one matching his description. We checked the security cameras. They caught me walking down the hallway. Beside me, there he was, clear as day on the security footage, walking just a few steps ahead of me, leading me toward that exit. The police took the footage, ran his face through their system. A few days later, they called me back. They found out who he was. A wanted criminal. Long record. Assault. Kidnapping. Human trafficking. But they never caught him. By the time they ran his name, he was already gone. No trace. No sightings. Just vanished. I switched to the day shift after that. Didn't set foot outside alone at night again. But 2 months later, while driving home after a late shift, I saw it. That same gray van, parked on the shoulder of the freeway, engine off, empty, like it was waiting for someone else. I don't know if they ever found another target, but I think about that night every time I step outside alone. And I know that if I had taken just a few more steps toward that van, if the real security guard hadn't shown up when he did, I wouldn't be here to tell this story. I'd been working the night shift at a gas station for about 6 months when this happened. I liked it, for the most part. It wasn't a busy station, just a small, off-the-highway stop in Montana. The kind of place that only got truckers, locals, and from time to time a lost tourist. Most nights were quiet, sometimes too quiet. The station was the only one for miles, surrounded by nothing but fields and stretches of empty road. No houses, no businesses, just the highway and darkness. It didn't bother me much until one night in October 2019 when I realized that working alone in the middle of nowhere, it makes you an easy target. It started around 1:30 a.m. I was behind the counter, watching some low-budget crime show on the tiny TV near the register, counting down the minutes until my shift ended, when I heard the low rumble of an engine pulling into the lot. I looked at the monitor that showed the security cam feed. A pickup truck had pulled up to pump 4, but something was off. The headlights were off and no one got out. I waited. Usually when people stop for gas, they move fast, especially at night. But this truck just sat there, idling. Minutes passed, still no movement. I figured the driver was just resting, maybe checking a map or his phone. But then, as I watched, I noticed something that sent a prickle up my neck. The driver? He was staring straight ahead, not moving. I tried to shake it off. Maybe the guy fell asleep. Maybe he was high. Still, it was weird. After about 10 minutes, I stepped outside, just enough to poke my head around the door. The air was cold and still, the kind of quiet that makes every little sound feel louder. "Hey man, you need help with anything?" I called out. No response. I took a step forward. The driver's face was obscured by shadow, but I could see the outline of his head. He was still staring straight ahead, too still. Something about it felt unnatural. I took one more step, and then I saw movement, near the dumpsters just past the edge of the station's lights. 2 shapes, low to the ground. I squinted, my breath hitching. At first, I thought maybe it was trash shifting in the wind. Then I saw them again, 2 men crouched low, partially hidden behind the metal dumpster, watching me. I barely had time to react before one of them moved, not toward the store, toward me, fast. I didn't think, didn't wait. I turned and ran. Behind me, I heard the scrape of boots on pavement. I slammed the door shut, locking it just as something hit the glass. A split second too late. I stumbled back, my breath coming hard. Outside, the 2 men had stood up now, no longer crouching. One of them, a tall guy in a jacket, grinned. Like this was funny. Like it was a game. The other one, he was already walking back toward the truck. And that's when I realized they were never going to buy gas. The driver, he still hadn't moved, still hadn't looked at me. He was just sitting there, waiting. One of the men outside knocked on the glass lightly, like he wanted me to open up. Then, without a word, he turned and walked toward the truck. I watched, heart hammering, as they climbed back inside. The engine revved, and then they just drove away. No rush, no peeling out, just slowly rolling back onto the highway, disappearing into the dark, like they were in no hurry at all. I stayed inside until my shift ended. Didn't call the cops. What would I even say? A couple of guys stood outside my store and looked creepy. I convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe they were drunk. Maybe they were messing with me. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed. But then, the next night, the truck came back. It was 1:30 a.m. Same truck, same pumps, same headlights off. I wasn't going outside this time. I stayed behind the counter, hand hovering over the phone, watching the security monitor. And then something even worse happened. The store phone rang. I jumped, stared at it. The caller ID flashed, unknown. I picked it up. For a second, there was silence. Then a voice, a man's voice. Calm, slow. "Why didn't you come outside this time?" Click. The line went dead. I backed away from the phone, chest tight, checked the monitors again. The truck was gone. No taillights, no sound, just vanished. That was my last shift. I called my boss the next morning and told him I was done. Didn't give him a reason. I never found out who they were, never saw the truck again. But I know one thing for sure. That first night, I wasn't supposed to see them. I was supposed to walk outside, step further away from the door, far enough that they could grab me. And once I did, that truck wasn't going to stay parked. It was going to leave, with me inside it. If these stories made you rethink working the night shift, hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs a reminder to stay alert. Ever had a terrifying late night encounter? Drop it in the comments or email me. I want to hear every chilling detail. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another real-life nightmare. Some dangers hide in the dark. Others stand right in front of you, pretending to be harmless. Stay safe out there, and remember, not every uniform means protection. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.